Hello, everyone. My name is Ephraim Katsir, and on behalf of Sephardic Heritage International in DC, or SHIN DC, welcome to our Learn to Chant the Torah webinar series with instructor Isaac Treuherz, who will join us live from the UK each week, 8 p.m. UK time, 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time in the US and Canada. We have an international group for this promising workshop, which is part of SHIN DC's Music of a Western Sephardi Tradition program. Here is Isaac Treuherz.
So this course is going to be across the summer, and gradually across the length of it, we will hopefully learn our way around all the various different termim. So I grew up in the London Spanish and Portuguese community, it's a Western Sephardi community in London. I learnt my bar mitzvah portion, as many people do, I think, from a tape, a literal cassette actually, because my rabbi was old-fashioned, of my portion, and I was told to memorize it from start to finish. Since then, I then essentially from that learn termim myself just by picking up the patterns. Didn't quite have my head around all of it, and have mainly sort of self-taught since then, listening closely in the parasha from week to week, occasionally badgering the Chazan with questions on how this works or that works. So the reason I'm telling you how I learned is to say that what I want to do over the next 7 weeks is not teach you all how I was taught, but how I wish I was taught. And try and engage with the termim themselves right from the get-go, and understand how to sing them, but also what they're saying. Before we get into any sort of theory stuff, I want to plant the sort of earworm of what these termim sound like. We're probably from a range of different places, and I just want you to have in your head the sound world that we're going to be singing in, because internalizing things is really the key here, and that's a gradual process. So I'm just Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha v'chol me'adecha v'hayu advim היום על בביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת במשפטיך בביתך ובלצך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשתם לאות על ידיך. That gives you the idea. Can we now go around and just quickly, because there are quite a few of you, I would just love to hear what people have done already. If you already know some Torah chant, which nusach is it in? If you don't know any, that's fine, tell me that. And roughly, what's your Hebrew reading comfort? We'll go around my screen. Get used to being called upon, because I'm going to be doing this a lot. So, Monica, do you want to start? Or Monique? Sorry.
Let me mute. So my name is Monique. I read Hebrew very well, speak Hebrew. I don't know the Ta'amim, but I'm memorizing the third Aliyah for the Rosh Hashanah, the second day of the Rosh Hashanah service. So I have it down by Nusach Amsterdam. And my son is memorizing the parasha, the Haftarah, Noach, and because of that, I'm kind of memorizing it as well, but also Amsterdam. But I'd like to learn the Termim, as you said, themselves, so that I don't have just the text memorized, but I actually can read it. I can take a text and, and know how to read, as I know the Termim. So.
Well, the dates of this course till just before Rosh Hashanah, so hopefully by then you'll be a pro. Joseph, do you want to go next? I
Sure.
understand all
My
this
name is
way.
Joseph Barrios. I'm actually in Florida, United States. I'm comfortable reading Hebrew, and I don't know anything about what that means, so this will be my first course.
Naomi?
Sure, I'm Naomi. She or they pronouns, calling in from Chicago. I know Ashkenazi Tamim. I've like played with British Ashkenazi Tamim and heard a bit S&P Tamim. And in terms of reading Hebrew, I like sight read pretty well, but now I'm at the stage of working on like understanding the difference between kamatz and patach and kamatz katan and gadol, and like when to pronounce the shva and not.
Michael? Thank you. Michael Rodriguez-Lee. Sorry, there's two.
That's me. My Hebrew is not good, but getting better. I'm relatively new to it, and I have no experience with the timing, but I can read at a bit of a slow pace.
Thank you. Gregory, what about you?
So I actually follow the Portuguese Nusach. I don't live in New York, Philadelphia, but I used to visit, thankfully Israel, when possible. I listen to Mr. Halfland's recordings quite a bit. I have read a little bit of the parasha and Chant Torah with the Te'amim, but I tend to get them a little mixed up with the Italian ones, but somewhere in that family. My Hebrew is, I mean, I can understand some of what I read, but not enough. So I'm kind of here just to brush up and actually like get a full understanding of everything.
Great. And then Leah Eliza? Sorry, please do tell me what I should be saying there.
Hi, that's Leah Lisa Lee, and I'm in the Detroit area. I am a latecomer to learning. I began learning to read Hebrew to teach my daughter who is interested in getting closer to our Jewish heritage, and I began learning trope to help her. She asked me to help her learn for her bat mitzvah. So she's 18 now. So my Hebrew reading is still slow. I have been a lay reader at a conservative synagogue, and the mentor that we had was excellent. He made us learn everything from the ground up and taught us a very beautiful Lithuanian trope. I'm now looking to expand into more heritage-related Sephardic trope.
Thank you. Michael, or possibly Mikkel Hilton?
Mikkel. So I can read Hebrew pretty well. I've been learning the trope from Daniel Halfon on the S&P. I'm trying to read it every week whilst listening to it. Yeah, so I try to read it also at synagogue whenever they read it in the Israeli way of doing it.
Thank you. Who have we not been to? Mark.
Hi, I came late, so I assume your question is what is our experience with Hebrew, etc., etc.
Hebrew and Talmud were the two things.
No Talmud experience. I can read Hebrew slowly and not very well. Don't understand anything of what I'm reading. I do have a background as a singer. Been in a couple Jewish choral groups. But so this class, to be honest, may be way above my head, but I just thought I'd test it out.
Amazing, thank you. And Nelly just joined. Do you want to quickly tell us just how comfortable your Hebrew reading is roughly, and if there's if any, what Tamim you're already familiar with, and if not, that's completely fine. Lots of others the same.
Thanks. I read Hebrew well. I understand Hebrew fairly well. I am good. I've been trained on what in Brazil is called the trope, which then I here in America I learned it is actually the Ashkenazi trope as taught in French, but not in America. So that's what I know. That's the one side that I know.
Thank you all. Sorry, Jordan, I think I've missed you.
Hi, I'm Jordan. My Hebrew reading is fairly well. I can read medium-ish pace, and my understanding is sort of intermediate to low advanced. And I don't really know the Tamim, but I recognize them from davening in a conservative shul. So that would be Ashkenazi.
And thank you. And Lelinaz? Sorry, every time someone new joins, all the pins change places. So.
My name's Lily Naz. I have basic Hebrew. It's something I'm working on. I'm very familiar with the sound of Spanish and Portuguese ta'amim because I go to Bevis Marks and I learned from Rabbi Eran Davis in Stockholm last year. But I have like very little actual experience doing it myself.
Now there's also a few people with video off, which means I'm unsure if
Isaac, I think you've missed Marie in all your
have I?
videos.
Where is Marie? Sorry. Marie, yes, please. Do tell. You're muted, Marie.
So I can read Hebrew fairly well, expanding my vocabulary every day. I use the interlinear, Schottenstein interlinear, which helps me catch up on my vocabulary. I learned the Spanish and Portuguese trope, Tamim, from an Ashkenazi teacher in Boston, who was my study partner, and we kind of learned it together using the melody, the music from the back of the Yaster prayer book, and listening to Daniel Halfon. And I normally chant the Maftir portion in our synagogue here in Jamaica. But I really want to, to make sure that I have learned it well. And I'm also very much interested in understanding the meaning of the Te'amim, what the significance is of them as we read the text.
Amazing. Thank you all very much. So there's now I want to where to pitch things. That's really, really helpful. And I'm going to talk a little bit about theory background, but not too much. I'd much prefer for most of the learning we're doing to be by doing. But so the way that I like to think about Te'amim is a kind of really formalized way of expressing the cadences of speech. So we talk a lot about, when we talk about phrasing of Te'amim, we talk a lot about pause, but that's not actually how we speak and how we phrase things. Like, if I speak, yes, I change the speed of my words and I stop at like a comma and I maybe stop a little more at a full stop. But actually the main way, and that's like the obvious way, but the main way I'm communicating to you all the phrasing of my words is actually through pitch. I might not be using notes like we do in Te'amim, but I'm still constantly changing the pitch of my words to tell you that what I'm saying is a sentence. And it's not a question, or that I'm going up to sort of and emphasizing certain words that are giving the nice sort of flow and phrasing. All these are things that we do subconsciously constantly when speaking English. And the way that I like to think about Te'amim is just a really sort of rigid and formalized way of doing the same way in Hebrew. And where I want us to get to is a place where we are thinking about Te'amim as naturally and as fluidly as we think about the sort of cadences of speech and phrasing on our own voice. That isn't somewhere where I'm saying we're all going to be in 7 weeks. That's somewhere where I hope for me to be when I die, and for all of you as well. That's like the absolute, this is the equivalent of when you learn a language and your teacher says to you at the beginning of the course, and I want you all to be dreaming in this language. This is the absolute end goal. But I think it's useful to think about that as the way to be thinking about ta'amim. That yes, it's musical notation, and yes, it's about notes, but mainly it's a sort of aid to language. It's an additional layer to language. I kind of want to say like you have some tonal languages, but I also don't speak any tonal languages like Mandarin, so I'm wary of saying that. But that's yeah, that's the comparison I want to draw to start off with. So now to put that into action, I'm gonna stop speaking at you all, and I'm gonna start singing instead. And all the words that I'm going to say are going to be in ta'amim, and those of you who are familiar with Western Sephardi ta'amim may in fact be recognizing this just very, very simple repeating chant that I'm doing. And you'll notice that it's not particularly tuneful. In fact, it's mostly just one or two notes, but you can still always sort of hear when I'm finishing a sentence. Whenever I reach the end of a sentence, I go up to this home note. But whenever I've not finished, I'm leaving it unresolved in suspense on this lower note until I go up. One thing that is one of the most important things to develop about chanting ta'amim is, well, this varies between nuska'ot, but certainly for us in Sephardi, and in some way or another, I would say across the board, is a sense of home. That one single note that I was really, really emphasizing there, that is our home note. And you're going to hear me pretty constantly use the word home in this course. And what I mean by that is that whenever we're singing, we're going back to this middle note. For those who are musical among you, and for whom this is a useful sentence, it's the tonic of our scale, is the root of our scale. And every phrase in the S&P ta'amim, and this is actually quite exceptional about it, every phrase ends on this home note. So I'm going to sing things like that a little slowly now, and I'd like to get, before we even look at a word of Hebrew or a word of Torah, some people who are happy talk singing in the same way as me, just about whatever you want with these same 2 or 3 notes. And first I'll break it down a little more for you. So when I'm saying a sentence, there's this little up and down. Saying a sentence. Those 2 little turns, that's our real primary, like bread and butter. This is what we're gonna constantly be doing. Up and a down, and then our last up. I feel like I should have selected sentences in advance, but actually I quite like that we'll be making them up as we go along. I don't want to throw it on you, just let you internalize it. Do a little bit more. You can, those of you who are familiar with service taking can think of this a little bit like a nusach, like a scale or a mode. I'm teaching you the motifs that are spread across the verses in Torah, and the only difference between this and a nusach is that you slightly less so get to choose where you're putting the notes. I'm seeing lots of like closed mouths, and it'll be really good, even if you're not singing with the words I'm saying. If you are also trying to internalize these notes and singing along just by going bum ba bum, because the reason I'm singing all that is not just to humiliate myself, it is to provide a thing for you to like practice along with. So I'm gonna just do this for a few more minutes, okay, not for a few more minutes, for like 20 more seconds, and then I'm gonna ask for first volunteer. Why don't I even do some Hebrew? Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha v'chol meodecha. That's right, we've all already learned the notes for the first line of the Shema. An audio MP3. I will provide a link to someone who's recorded, to a couple places where you can find recordings of full Torah readings, but also this whole class is being recorded and that will be emailed to you after class. Does anyone want to have a go at telling me what you had for dinner last night, just with the notes that we've just been singing? Okay.
Sure. Last night I had a roast beef sandwich. It was very tasty with lots of mustard. I also had some coleslaw and corn salad along with it. My children, on the other hand, did not eat very well, but they are 9 and 6. That's to be expected.
So you've got the phrasing down. It's really fun to listen to. Your lower note, you're actually going lower in the scale than is the tune. I don't know if music words are helpful for you. I think you're going down to the 5th when you want to just be on a flat 7th. If that sentence meant nothing to you, then pretend I never said it. You ba 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 da da. It's a very small change. Whereas you're going ba 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 ba, you're doing a very big change. Do you hear the difference?
I do. I used to play brass and saxophone, and I'm a singer as well.
I'm glad that music language isn't just me spewing gibberish at you. Can you try just, if that's helpful, then it's just a tone. Bum bum. What? Do you want to have another quick stab?
I can try. Maybe I'm not going as far down as I used to. Is this a little bit better?
No, I can't in the moment tell by ear what you are doing, but it's not quite the right interval. I'll try singing a little slower for everyone's sake, and naming of intervals every now and then would be helpful if you don't find it distracting. Sure. Ba 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 ba. Da 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 ba 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 ba. Another tone beneath. Ba 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 ba. So we're on 1 7 6 1 7 1. But that is me just saying by ear. So I apologize if someone. Yeah, if those aren't the right numbers. Is there someone else who wants to have a go? Monique?
I don't remember what I had for dinner last night, so I will talk about my desire to sing. I want to sing, but I don't know how to. I want to learn the tropes and be able to chant.
Chant, you've left us hanging. Can you finish the sentence?
Chant. How do I finish the sentence?
The sentence. We finish on the home note.
I finish the sentence. I don't know.
So okay. Did you hear what it is I'm talking about? You're doing the notes absolutely spot on. We'd be very, very, very happy to hear. It's just that very ending is we always end on the home note, and it's this upper note that's our home note. Do you want to just resolve the beautiful story that you told us?
You end in the home note. No.
Home note. Up one.
On the hem note.
Yes, fabulous. So this is it's really, really important to have the sense of the full phrase, because just as when I'm speaking to you now, you tell I'm finished because I speak with a nice, final, going down cadence. And you could all tell that was the end of a sentence there. The equivalent of that is this final and it's this up which tells us that we're finished. Does someone else want to have a stab? Joseph, go ahead, please.
Please bear with me. This is the first time I do some chanting. And take some water.
Oh, you're so much.
Let me know when you're ready. All right. Yesterday night, I had pasta with spicy marinara with a garlic bread, and that was all.
Amazing. Can we? Is there anyone who wants to volunteer? Shall I start picking on people?
I can try.
Two people. It's Lily and then Mark. Should we have?
Okay. This is my basil plant. I acquired her yesterday.
Amazing. Thank you for telling us about your basil plant. That was spot on. Mark?
The theme for last night seems to have been pasta, which I also had with some chicken, but I'm getting tired of my own cooking during this stupid COVID era.
Oh, the sentence hasn't finished. You've left us hanging.
Oh, I thought I had ended sort of on an up note, but I'm tired of my cooking during this era.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to do that once more, just so it's like solid and comfortable?
Right. So the theme of everyone's meals seems to have been Italian lately, and it was the same with me last night for dinner.
Yeah, that dinner. That's the important thing. We will be playing later with how it's slightly trickier to apply it when the emphasis is on the first part of the word rather than the last, like that. Dinner. It feels a little more weird than just going dinner. So hold that thought that it felt slightly awkward there, because that's, yeah, we'll come back to that. Was anyone else waving? Is there anyone else who wants to have a go at this? And if not, maybe we'll try looking at some text. Don't be afraid. Okay, Naomi?
I don't usually remember to eat on Motzei Shabbat, but then in the middle of the night, I get hungry, so I had cereal at 4 a.m.
The cereal at 4 a.m. was all there, but I felt like you had a different home at the end than you did in the first line, like the home like moved in the middle. Yeah, each individual, does that make sense? Each individual bit was fine?
Can you figure, well, I'll have to listen back and see what I did.
Sure. Yes, that's the joy of this being recorded. I gotta say that's one of the things about, there's many things annoying about Zoom lectures, but the fact that it's so easy to record and look back on things is actually one of the things I'm a fan of. What termim are you having us exercise? Well, I'm so glad you asked. We are, so actually a surprising number, given that we've been singing 2 or 3 notes actually most of this time. The mileage that these 2 or 3 notes is getting us, I just want to manage expectations. This is going to be the last time that we learn 3 notes and with it 5.5 different termim. But I'm gonna bring up a slightly scary looking diagram now, but by the end of the course it will be significantly less scary, so you should have all been emailed this, but I'm also just going to share it on my screen briefly, which also means I need to open it because I didn't do that beforehand. Sorry. Just be singing about what you had for dinner last night while you wait. Fine. Can I have share screen permissions? I think it's if you hit in the top right corner of my screen. Amazing. So this chart is going to be our reference point for the length of this course, and it has all the marks that we're going to encounter on it. And we have just learnt this sof pasuk, atnach, zakef katon, taha, ma'awech, and holech. Like I said, they won't all go down like 9 pins quite that quickly. The reason that I wanted to learn these, well, one of the reasons that I wanted to learn these detached from the text is because actually learning the notes for them isn't quite as simple as learning each one individually and what each one always is. Because, and this is the bit that people can find slightly intimidating, particularly because this is like a big no-no in Ashkenazi Talmim, and some Sephardi Nuskot, but mostly what I'm saying holds true. The exact notes can actually vary quite a lot. I mean, I have heard some Chazanim who will like properly improvise within the makam of their Torah reading as they on specific very melodic decorative marks. They'll like add extra embellishments as they read. Western Sephardi Tamim are not quite as varying as that, but these small marks, these vary a lot, and I never learnt them, as it were. I at no point that sort of complicated marks like can you all see my mouse? Someone like nod if you can. Yeah, like Wavia or Teve or Pazeh. Those I like sat down and learnt. But these small marks I never learnt. I learned whole verses and whole swathes of text, and after a while realized that I knew them. And it's this process of internalizing them which lets one read them and apply them comfortably and not worry, if that makes sense, about the fact that they're going to be a little different every time, that I'm trying to reproduce now with pasta. So the bit that is important is the spread of the phrasing. So I'm just going to go a couple of times through the names. But if these don't stick now, that's fine, because names take a while to sink in. But so at the end of every verse we have sof pasuk, and also which is sort of separated into this colon is sof pasuk, and this meteg, this line underneath it, is siluk. And then halfway through verses, if they have a half time divider, some verses are very short, we have atnach. And these are the two main dividers. And both of these, you always, when you get to them, you go home. So whatever line we've been singing, and we're going through various notes, and then you get to a sof pasuk, and you go home up to this final note, and the same for atnach, and the same also for zakef katon. These, and zakef katon is the next primary divider after atnach, and I grew up calling it a quarter mark. So these are half marks and these are quarter marks. These three, and this is what I meant when I said S&P are a bit exceptional in how often we go home, that all three of these are the same. All three of them are go back to your home, and that is a difference between other systems, which all go home at Sof Pasuk, but some of them might sound unfinished at Atnach or Zakef Katam. The ba-da-ba-ba-ba is this pair of marks, Ma'awich and Taha. But to see how these manifest, I'm going to switch from looking at this chart and we're going to look at some lines of Hebrew now. And this is also a good time if anyone is like wildly confused by anything that I have said so far. Give me a wave. Sorry, I'm just switching the share over. So ideally you should now see a list of Hebrew phrases. Amazing. So zoom in on this verse. Fun fact for you. So it was quite fun compiling this sheet actually, because I was sort of thinking through like, what are I wanted to try and have things which would be familiar to people, even who might not be so comfortable with Hebrew reading. Fun fact for you, this verse is the most cited / most quoted verse on Sephardic. It is B'Tselem Elohim bara oto, Zachar unkeva bara otam. In the image of God, they created them. Male and female, they created them. Is potentially a rough translation because, but hopefully not. And so now I'm going to try and show you using this line how what we were just singing spreads across the marks. So I'll sing it slowly. B'Tselem Elohim bara oto, B'Tselem Elohim bara oto. We've got one up here and the other up here, and then we stay on a level and then go home. Now, these two marks might seem like they are the same. And this is where the phrasing aspect becomes really important. Because as you see this like line in, and they make it, on other font systems curved, they make a pair. And these two words are a pair. When a mark is on the first of two words like this that are a pair, it's called a conjunctive. And when a word divides words from each other, like this one, it's a disjunctive. So conjunctive to mean it conjoins things, and disjunctive to it disjoins things, which might be a word. I'm going to use, I printed one off so that I can be looking at your faces as well as the sheet. So yeah, so the soft pasuk here, this is our strongest disjunctive. And I'm not going to like go through itemizing them all, but on the chart that you were all sent, the traffic light system of red, orange, yellow, green shows the strength of the different disjunctives. And if it's red, it's like a really strong divider, and if it's green, it's a conjunctive. So it actually makes the word after it and it into a nice little pair. So we have this. B'Tselem Elohim bara oto, Zachar unkeva bara otam. And here's why I really wanted to emphasize the phrasing aspect. Because look, we have the same mark here. Zachar bara. We're seeing them differently. Why? Because this is how we're applying the phrase across the words. Zachar unkeva. Here, it's in this little pair. Of these two marks together. Whereas when it appears again after that, we don't zachar unkeva bara. It just gets repetitive and annoying at that point. So when you have one, you go zachar the first time, but then when you have it again and right before the home note is just taking us home. Bara oto. So if I now read more fluidly, how you would if you were sort of passing Hebrew, V'tzelem Elohim bara oto zachar unkeva bara otam. V'tzelem Elohim bara oto zachar unkeva bara otam. And you should hopefully hear the really easy phrases across the lines. So we're now going to try this, and we've got 10 minutes left, which is less than I wanted, but we're going to now move on to trying some reading ourselves. Now, the first sort of round of verselets, we just have a note and then home. So I'll read the first one. Vayishma Avram. We're beneath home, and then we're home. Is there someone who wants to try 2.2? Dear. So this has happened to me before. I've lost names now that I'm in. I'm gonna look see if I can fix this. I don't want to be like calling you based on. Can I? Okay, amazing. I fixed this. Nelly, I think you were the first person to put your hand up. Yeah, exactly. Monique, do you want to take 2.3?
Just an observation. So in Amsterdam, we do the Ain as a na, right? So it would be Lemanan Tiskeru.
Fab. And yes, everyone is welcome to pronounce the Hebrew according to whatever tradition they wish. Joseph, do you want to take 2.3 for us? Sorry, that's my fault. Give me one moment. My computer's decided it has other ideas. Can you see it again?
I can see. So can
amazing.
We should
take us
again.
Sure.
I cannot hear. Which one again? Which one do I do now?
Sorry.
Which one do I do?
2.4. So my mouse is just hovering on it now.
Vayomer Abram.
Yes, you had an extra little flick on the Vayomer, which is like more attention than it needs, if that makes sense. You had the phrase and you had the home in the right place. Do you want to try sing it again, and this time less on the first word, if that makes sense?
Okay, let me try. Vayomer Abram.
So I'll sing it for you then, if that make it easier. Vayomer Avram. Do you just
Avram?
Yeah, spot on. Mikkel, do you want to give us 2.5?
Bear.
Yeah, perfect. I will also say, whenever you are muted and not the one reading, do be reading along, so that you're also getting the practice. Lily, do you want to do 2.6?
Sure. Apologies in advance for my pronunciation. Tim la'em nafshi.
Yeah, great. Okay, so now the last couple here we've got 2 marks on the same word, and this happens quite a bit with this particular mark with holach. And it's exactly what we've been doing. It's just the change happens mid-word. So, is there anyone who is Jordan? You're nodding. Do you want to try it?
Sure.
2.7.
Yeah. Adam.
Yeah, and last one, 2.8. anyone want to give us who's not done so far? Gregory? Yeah, perfect. And you're on the right note now. Okay, so we have some slightly larger phrases that we're going to move on to now. Again, I'm going to do the first couple actually because they're a little different, and I'll show you different things with them. So the first one, we've just got the second of our nice little pair, and we're going to go Vasitem et kol mitzvotai. So this divider, which is slanted away from the word after it, is telling us that we're going to want to go down before we go up. Whereas all the previous ones we've been doing, where the holech is leading to the word after it, was just straight away ve'ahavta, straight away in and then up. So va'asitem et kol mitzvotai. And now, when we have two of them, we do the full phrase that we were singing before when we were singing about our dinners. So, sus v'rochevo rama vayam, sus v'rochevo rama vayam. And something I really want to point out here is what we're not doing is sus v'rochevo, because the sus is just one syllable. I'll explain this and then I'll come to you, Lily. Sus is just one syllable, so the tail end of sus we're putting onto v'rochevo. Sus v'rochevo rama vayam. Lily, you had a question?
No, yeah, it was basically that. I was confused why we weren't doing the yada on both, but I guess you.
So we're like merging the words together. Susva is how you can think about it. Susva rochevo. Monique, did you have a question also?
Can I ask why would they then put that mark? In other words, if it is just one syllable, why? In other words, if you want to do something with the second word, wouldn't you put the mark on the second word instead of on the first word?
So this is really at like the middle of what I was getting at initially when I was talking about these are all indicating phrasing rather than notes, and the notes is how we're realizing them. Whoever, I'm not, don't want to get into the history, but like put a line here and a line there, they weren't telling us do a note here and then a note there and then a note there, and they certainly weren't telling us these particular notes, which are what we, such a long time later have evolved in various sort of branched out traditions to be doing. What they were telling us is that sus and v'rochevo are a little pair of words, and the melodies we're singing are how we as speakers of these texts are realizing that. Does that make sense as a distinction?
Yes, thank you.
Does someone want to try 3.3? And the words are from the Shema, if anyone's feeling apprehensive about the Hebrew. We've got plenty of examples on this page, so I'll sing a few more so you start hearing more how it applies, and then I'll call again for people. So, V'hitam kodshim l'Elohechem, V'hitam kodshim l'Elohechem, Hu Elohim Chayim, or Hu Elohim Chayim, Umelech Olam. Hu Elohim Chayim, Umelech Olam. V'samti et zaracha kanafa ha'aretz. Someone want to try 3.6? Marie?
Ve'yishma Elohim et na'akatam.
Spot on. Absolutely perfect. Anyone want to try 3.7? Lily, do you also have a hand up for 3.6? Sure. Anyone else who wants to have a stab? I should mention this has 2 in a row, and sort of if that's what's confusing. So those are just both have this like on a level part of the phrase on them. So you can sort of maybe imagine it as if there's one on key and then they're like hyphenated together. Lily, do you want to have a stab now?
Vayara Adonai ki sar lirot.
Yeah, fab. The notes all spot on. The Shiva under the wedge here is not a pronounced one, but that is because of fiddly annoying rules, which we will get to in later weeks. And don't worry at all about that. So that was Vaya Adonai. This last one, a very famous little verselet. Does anyone want to have it? Jordan, do you want to have a stab at this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. It is now 9. What I have on this side of the page is essentially the same thing, just slightly longer verses to get you used to reading a bit more at a time. So I don't want to keep people longer than the class was advertised for. This last bit was a little more rushed than I'd wanted, but what I do want to say is that I probably speak for many people when I said this, did not sight read a single ta'am until I had been learning ta'amim for I don't remember, I was like 13 bar mitzvah, but like ages. I'd like spent ages memorizing verses and then I had a go at like trying it and then whatever. I think lots of people as well, they spend ages sort of learning whole zakah tables and then they like tentatively nervously try it, and you have all just done it in less than an hour. So I am terrifically pleased with all of you. Very much looking forward to next week. Hope you will return and tell your friends and all that jazz. I hope that the way the sort of, I'm going to end the screen share that we can all be looking at all of our faces. The way that I'm talking about the marks, I hope that's making sense to people. I would love to hear if there are things and how I taught it, and I'm going to put a shiny new ShinDC email that I have in the chat that you can all get in touch with me on if you want, or the Facebook event, one of the pages that's hosting it is me, so you can get in touch with me there. If there's anything you didn't like, anything that you maybe would want additionally next week, then please do let me know. Yes, also in the next email from Ephraim will include this word sheet, so you can be trying these on your own as well. Next week, we will go over all these marks that we've sung here, and we'll slightly expand our repertoire, but not too much. What I want to be doing in the early weeks is getting us really comfortable with just the feeling of reading marks and of placing tunes depending on where marks are, and we can leave sort of more difficult melodies. I realize we spent a long time just singing 3 notes, but we can leave more difficult melodies for once the sort of fundamental principles are like really under our belts. Does anyone have any final questions, or shall I see you all next week? And yes, the recording will be emailed out to you also.
Yes, thank you, Isaac. It was great.
Very welcome.
Thanks very much.
All right, so say thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Isaac.
Thank you. It was inspiring.
Ephraim has some closing.
Yes, I'll make it quick. Thank you for joining us for ShinDC's Learn to Chant the Torah webinar series with with Isaac. We'll meet at the same time each Sunday, 8 p.m. UK time, 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time in the US and Canada. The Zoom info will remain the same. And as Isaac said, you can send any questions to him at isaac@shindc.org. Please also feel free to email info@shindc.org with any questions. And again, thank you, and we look forward to seeing you every Sunday, God willing, as we continue. Thank you so much, Isaac.
I will also add that there is a donation button also, which I would appreciate. This class is pay what you want, which is important to me. If you can afford to give more to subsidize those who maybe aren't able to pay for these sessions, that's great. If you just want to chip in a tiny bit, that's also great.
Right, and so I'll just add to that, thanks to everyone who has donated already. Donations can always be made at the registration page, even after you've already registered. You can always return there and make a donation. So thank you, we appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Shavuot Tov, everyone.
Shavuot Tov.
Shavuot Tov.
And Isaac Chazak u'Baruch.
Yeah, Chazak u'Baruch.
Oh, dear.